Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra, Radhe.
Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram.
Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 8th chapter, Lord Krishna explains in the 21st verse, Avyakto akshara ityuktaha tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. The meaning of this verse is, that supreme abode is called unmanifested, avyakta, and infallible, akshara. And it is a supreme destination, paramam gatim. When one goes there, he never comes back. Yam prapya na nivartante. Tadhama, that is my supreme abode, paramam, param dhama or paramam dhama. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there is clear description of the supreme abode of the Supreme Lord. And many places in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you belong. You means everyone. Everyone belongs to that supreme abode of Krishna. Krishna is inviting, please come to my personal abode. So there is a very nice instance in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the description of the Krishna Leela. Shukadeva Swami describes once Nanda Maharaj, he was taken away by the servants of Varuna. So that Leela I will narrate now. It is described that after the Govardhan Puja ceremony, the Ekadashi following that Govardhan Puja ceremony is held on Pratipat, the first day of the new fortnight, and on the Ekadashi, Nanda Maharaj observed fasting the whole day, and just early in the morning of the next day, Dwadashi, he went to take bath in the river Yamuna. He entered deep within the water of the river, but he was arrested immediately by one of the servants of Varuna Deva. This servant brought Nanda Maharaj before the demigod Varuna. Varuna is the lord of all the oceans. And the servant accused Nanda Maharaj of taking a bath in the river at the wrong time. According to astronomical calculations, the time in which Nanda Maharaj took a bath was considered demoniac. The fact was that Nanda Maharaj wanted to take bath in the Yamuna river at an auspicious time, early morning before sunrise. But somehow he went a little too early. Before even the night was ending, he went and entered the river at an inauspicious time. Therefore, he was arrested. When Nanda Maharaj was taken away by one of Varuna's servants, Nanda's companions began to call loudly for Krishna and Balaram. Immediately, Krishna and Balaram could understand, because they are the Supreme Lord, they could understand that Nanda Maharaj had been taken by a servant of Varuna. So they went to the abode of Varuna, because the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they were all pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. They had no other protection, no other shelter other than the Lord Himself. Devotees always depend on the Supreme Lord exclusively. They have no other shelter or no other protection. So, Krishna went to the abode of Varuna, And as soon as Krishna reached there, Krishna and Balaram, both of them, then the Devata, the demigod Varuna, he received Krishna and Balaram with great respect. And he said, Varuna said, "My dear Lord, actually at this very moment, because of your presence, my life as the Devata Varuna has become successful. Although I am the proprietor of all the treasures in the water, I know that such possessions do not make for a successful life. Success in life is not simply accumulating wealth or having lot of treasure, lot of possessions. That is not success in life, as Varuna is telling here. But at the present moment, as I look at you, my life is made completely successful simply because of seeing you. I no longer have to accept a material body. Just by having darshan of Krishna, one can be freed from all material bondage. Just by darshan, just by seeing. Therefore, O Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Brahman and Super Soul of everything, these are the three aspects of the Absolute Truth. Krishna is the Absolute Truth. So, what are the three aspects? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, Supreme Brahman, the Brahman feature, and Super Soul, Paramatma feature. Super Soul of everything in existence. So, Varuna is offering respects to the Supreme Lord, who is present in three different features, always, eternally. So Varuna is saying, O Lord, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You are the Supreme Transcendental Personality. There is no possibility of imposing the influence of material nature upon you. I am very sorry that my foolish man, by not knowing what to do or what not to do, has mistakenly arrested your father Nanda Maharaj. So Varuna is now begging pardon. He is telling it was a mistake to have arrested Nanda Maharaj, a mistake done by his servant. So Varuna is now requesting Krishna, so I beg your pardon for the offense of my servant. I think it was your plan to show me your mercy by your personal presence here. My dear Lord Krishna, Govinda, be merciful upon me. Here is your father. You can take him back immediately. In this way, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, rescued his father and presented Nanda Maharaj before his friends, bringing them great jubilation. Nanda Maharaj was surprised that although the demigod was so opulent, he offered such respect to Krishna. You should understand, Krishna is a small boy. He was just 7 years old when he lifted Govardhan Hill. After that Govardhan Hill lifting pastime, a few days later, this pastime happened, this particular incident happened. So Nanda Maharaj is seeing this Devata is offering respects to my son, 7-year-old son, small boy. So that was very astonishing to Nanda Maharaj. And he began to describe the incident to his friends and relatives with great wonder. Actually, although Krishna was acting so wonderfully, Maharaj Nanda and Mother Yashoda could not think of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead, they always accepted Krishna as their beloved child. Thus, Nanda Maharaj did not accept the fact that Varuna worshipped Krishna because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, he took it that because Krishna is such a wonderful child, he was respected even by Varuna. This is what Nanda Maharaj taught. The friends of Nanda Maharaj, all the covered men, became eager to know if Krishna is actually the Supreme Lord, and if Krishna was going to give them all salvation. So when they were consulting among themselves, Krishna understood their mind, and in order to assure them of their destiny in the spiritual kingdom, he showed them the spiritual sky. Generally, ordinary persons are engaged simply in working hard in the material world, and they have no information that there is another kingdom or another sky, which is known as the spiritual sky. It is completely different from the sky that we know of, material sky. Material sky has material planets, and spiritual sky has spiritual planets. Spiritual sky and spiritual planets are beyond all the material universes. It's outside the covering of the universes. So, in the spiritual sky, where there are spiritual planets, life is eternal, life is always full of bliss and full of knowledge, Satchidananda existence. So, the material world is opposite. Here everything is temporary, there is no real happiness, and there always some misery, and people are generally in ignorance. Even if they have some knowledge that is very meager, they don't have spiritual understanding. Spiritual knowledge is lacking in this world. So, this difference we should always remember between the spiritual world or spiritual skies with spiritual planets and the material sky with material planets. This difference always exists. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person returning to that spiritual sky never returns to this material world of death and suffering. Material world means always there is suffering. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always eager to give information to the conditioned soul, to all of us who are entangled in this world. Krishna wants to give information that there is a spiritual sky far, far beyond this material sky, and it is transcendental to the innumerable universes created within the total material energy. If we include all the universes, each universe having millions of planets, each planet having millions of living beings, everything put together is simply one corner of the spiritual sky. The spiritual sky is very, very vast, and there are millions of Vaikuntha planets. So many planets, spiritual planets. So, Krishna gives this information in the Bhagavad Gita. This information is there in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. This information is there in many, many Vedic scriptures. Krishna, of course, is always very kind to every conditioned soul. But as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he is especially inclined to the pure devotees. Krishna is actually kind to everyone. But then he is specially inclined to the pure devotees. Hearing their inquiries, Krishna immediately thought his devotees in Vrindavan should be informed of the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha planets therein. Within the material world, everyone is in darkness of ignorance. Because everyone is in a bodily conception. They think only in terms of body. They don't know their spirit soul. They don't know they are eternal. They don't know there is an eternal world separate from this material world. They don't know about this. and they simply keep on working in ignorance, somehow thinking that we have to live till death comes. Once death comes, everything is finished. This is the general understanding people have. And they don't realize whatever work I am doing, it is resulting in karma. And karma means I have to accept another body. And that body depends on what type of work I am doing now. And we are creating our future body in ignorance. We do not know what type of body we are going to get in our next life. And generally they don't have any information about the spiritual world. So they do not even take up the activities of spiritual nature, that is Bhakti Yoga. They don't accept Bhakti Yoga. But those who practice Bhakti Yoga, they directly are able to go to the spiritual world after giving up this present body. Directly they are able to go. The inhabitants of Vrindavan are all pure devotees. Therefore, after they quit the body, they are all directly going to Krishna Loka. Anybody engaged in Krishna consciousness, after death, they get Krishna's association, first of all, in one of the universes in which Krishna is performing his pastimes. Continuously, Krishna is performing his pastimes in one universe, next universe, next universe, next universe, like that. Continuously. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, the sun is passing over our head. But at this time, somewhere else, the sun is rising. At this time, somewhere else, the sun has already risen and it is just the beginning of the day, morning. So like that, Krishna also, he is performing one type of pastime in one universe, then the next moment he is appearing in another universe, the next moment in another universe. Like that, Krishna's pastimes are continuously going on in some universe. Continuously going on. So, those who have completely become Krishna conscious by practicing Bhakti Yoga, as soon as they quit their body, they are first transferred to the universe where presently Krishna's pastimes are going on. And in that universe, wherever Krishna is there, performing his pastimes, the devotees who are transferred there get their first opportunity to associate with Krishna personally and directly. And then the training goes on. As we see in the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna within this planet, Krishna revealed the actual features of Vaikuntha planets to the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So Krishna showed the inhabitants of Vrindavan the Vaikuntha Loka. He took them to that spot, to a lake by the Yamuna river, and there they took their bath and they saw the real nature of Vaikuntha Loka, because Krishna showed them that. After seeing the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha Lokas, all the men headed by Nanda Maharaj felt wonderfully blissful, and upon coming out of the lake, they saw Krishna, who was being worshipped with excellent prayers. Krishna is worshipped everywhere in the spiritual world by the devotees, continuously, constantly. So they saw that and they were feeling very, very nice about the whole experience. So this is the spiritual world which Krishna showed to the Vrindavan Nivasis on the occasion of this Nanda Maharaj being rescued after he was arrested by one of the servants of Varunadeva. Hare Krishna. I'll take some questions now. Here's a question. It's easy to understand lust as man and woman's sexual attachment to each other. But how does one understand lust in relationships like father-son, friends, mother-daughter, etc.? Is lust in there too? The answer is yes. In all material relationships, there is lust. Let us try to understand what is this lust. Lust is called kama. The Sanskrit word for lust is kama. And love, the Sanskrit word is prema. You would have heard these words, kama and prema. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is explained, kama prema donhara vibhinna lakshana lauha ara hema yeche swarupa vilakshana. The meaning of this verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is, lust and love, kama and prema, have different characteristics, just as iron and gold have different natures. So Srila Prabhupada says, one should try to discriminate between sexual love and pure love, for they belong to different categories, with a gulf of difference between them. Very, very big difference. They are as different from one another as iron is different from gold. Iron is a base metal and gold is such a precious, wonderful metal. Similarly, material lust is very, very base quality, and prema is pure love, which is very, very sublime. Then to understand further the difference between kama and prema, he defines, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he defines. He says, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tara Bali Kama. What is called as kama is Atmendriya Priti Vancha. And prema is Krishnendriya Priti Ichha Dhare Prema Nama. So the translation is, the desire to gratify one's own senses is called kama or lust. But the desire to please the senses of Krishna is called prema or love. So simple definition. Whenever there is a desire to please one's own senses in any activity, that is called kama. And when the desire is to exclusively please the senses of Krishna, that is called prema or love. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada explains, asserts that sexual love is a matter of personal sense enjoyment. In this material world, everybody is interested in their personal satisfaction or enjoyment. Prabhupada explains, all the regulative principles in the Vedas pertaining to desires for popularity, fatherhood, wealth and so on are different phases of sense gratification. Acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, health directives, fruitive action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection, fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all these categories are different subdivisions of one substance, that is sense gratification. All are actually sense gratification only. All such good activities are performed basically for one's own personal sense gratification. For no one can sacrifice his or her personal interest while discharging these much advertised moral and religious principles. But above all this is the transcendental stage in which one feels himself or herself to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. If one becomes a devotee on the transcendental platform, one understands I am simply a servant of Krishna. Servant here means devotee. Don't think of servant like a material experienced servant. No, this is completely spiritual. A servant of the Supreme Lord exclusively, and no other obligation, no other bondage. All activities performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God, because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Krishna. So in this connection it is said, all the devotees in Vrindavan, they simply want to please Krishna by every activity they perform. They do not want anything for themselves. They are completely dedicated for pleasing Krishna through all their activities. Therefore, they have pure love for Krishna. So this is the difference between lust and love. Lust means everybody acts in this world particularly for their own personal interest, for their own personal satisfaction, for their own personal sense pleasure. The sense pleasure could be gross, sometimes it could be subtle also. It could be satisfaction of the mind, or satisfaction of the intelligence, or satisfaction of the false ego. But there is some personal satisfaction that is considered in every activity, material relationships, all kinds of relationships. Next question. How to let go of attachment? It is said that to give up attachment is generally not possible, because a living person cannot in the real sense be a renouncer. If somebody renounces something, that is for gaining something else more valuable. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, a student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. So this attachment that we have for different material things, we cannot simply give it up for nothing. No. We can give it up only if we develop some attraction for spiritual value. Something if we can gain spiritually, then the material objects or material things will become very, very unattractive. We will very easily give it up. So, it is explained, there were 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They gave up their worldly prosperity for the sake of service of Krishna. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis, 2 Goswamis, Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, were ministers in the government service of the king of Nawab of Bengal, and another Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, was the son of a very, very rich zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. What is that? They wanted to have shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. That is why they gave up all their material wealth, all their material possessions. Similarly, if we develop spiritual, if we practice spiritual life and develop spiritual attraction for Krishna, for everything about Krishna, then automatically we will develop detachment from everything material. Just like a child gives up playing with toys because something more attractive, something more interesting, as one grows up and develops interest or attraction in something more valuable. Similarly, even those who are practicing devotional service, if they properly practice devotional service, simply by this practice, one can develop spiritual attraction. And that spiritual attraction means you give up material attachments. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.